Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. We're reading Homer's The Odyssey. This is an epic poem translated by Robert Fitzgerald. We're on book 3. Hopefully, you read the first 2 books with Jimmy. Ready? Here we go. Book 3. The Lord of the Western approaches. All right, here we go. You remember we left off Telemachus grabbed a boat, grabbed some men, and he's out looking for his dad. Ready? The sun rose on the flawless brimming sea into a sky all brazen, all one brightening for gods immortal and for mortal men on plough lands kind of with grain. This is beautiful language, isn't it? And facing sunrise, the voyagers now lay off Pylos town, compact stronghold of Nellis. On the shore, black bulls were being offered by the people to the blue man god, who makes the islands tremble. 9 congregations, each 500 strong, led 9 bulls apiece to sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifices going on with bulls, and this is important. Taking the tribes to eat, while on their altars the thigh bones and fat lay burning for the god. And here they put in furled sail and beached the ship, but Telemachus hung back in disembarking, so that Athena turned and said, remember, Athena takes different forms. She's not Athena. She takes different forms, right? And she's traveling as, I believe, as mentor this time. She says, not the least shyness now, Telemachus. You came across the open sea for this, to find out where the great earth hides your father, and what the doom was that he came upon. Go to old Nestor, master charioteer, so that we may broach the storehouse of his mind. Ask him with courtesy, and in his wisdom he will tell you history and no lies. Okay? But clear-headed Telemachus replied, quote, Mentor, how can I do it? How can I approach him? I have no practice in elaborate speeches, and for a young man to interrogate an old man, that seems disrespectful. But the gray-eyed goddess said, quote, Reason and heart will give you words, Telemachus, and a spirit will counsel others. I should say the gods will never be indifferent to your life. That's pretty good advice. So she went on quickly, and he followed her to where the men of Pylos had their altars. Nestor appeared, enthroned among his sons, while friends around them skewered the red beef or held it scorching. And when they saw the strangers, a hail went up, and all that crowd came forward calling out invitations to the feast. Come on. Pesitos, in the lead, the young prince, caught up their hands in his and gave them places on curly lambskins flat on the sea sand near Thamades, his brother, and his father. He passed them bits of the food of sacrifice, and he poured wine in a golden cup. And he said to Pallas Athena, daughter of Zeus, Friend, now remember, they can't see that that's Athena, right? That's Mentor. Friend, I must ask you to invoke Poseidon. You find us at this feast, kept in his honor. Make the appointed offering then, and pray, and give the honeyed wine cup to your friend so that he may do the same. He too must pray to the gods, on whom all men depend. But he is just my age, and you are the senior, so here, I give you the goblet first to you. And he put the cup of sweet wine in her hand, and Athena liked his manners, and the equity that gave her precedence with the cup of gold, and so she besought Poseidon at some length. She said, Earthshaker, listen and be well disposed. Grant your petitioners everything that they ask, please, and above all, honor to Nestor and his sons. Second, to every man of Pylos downtown, a fair gift in exchange for this hecatomb That's the sacrifice. We'll find out what that word means a little later. Third, may Telemachus and I perform the errand on which last night we put to sea. This was the prayer of Athena, granted in every particular by herself. And she passed the beautiful wine cup to Telemachus, who tipped the wine and prayed as she had done. Meanwhile, the spits were taken off the fire, portions of crisp meat for all. They feasted, and when they had eaten and drunk their fill, at last they heard from Nestor, the prince of charioteers. Quote, "Now is the time," he said, "for a few questions." You see, these are the laws of hospitality that they follow, right? They eat, they drink, and then they talk. "Now is the time for a few questions," Nestor said, "now that our young guests have enjoyed their dinner. Who are you, strangers? Where are you sailing from? And where to? Down the highways of seawater? Have you some business here? Or are you now reckless wanderers of the sea, like those corsairs who risk their lives to prey on other men, pirates?" Clear-headed Telemachus responded cheerfully, because Athena had gave him heart, and by her design his quest for news about his father's wandering would bring him fame in the world's eyes. And so he said, quote, "Nestor, pride of Achaeans, Nelus' son, you ask where we are from, and I can tell you. Our home port is under Mount Neon, Ithaca. We're not here on Ithaca business, though, but my own business. I want news of my father, Odysseus, known for his great heart, and I will comb the wide world for it. I will. People say that he fought along with you when Troy was taken. As to the other men who fought that way, we know where each one died, how he died, but Zeus allotted my father death and mystery. No one can say for sure where he was killed, whether some hostile landsman or the sea, the storm waves of the deep sea got the best of him. We just don't know, and this is why I come to you for help. Tell me of his death, sir, if perhaps you witnessed it or you've heard some wanderer tell the tale. The man was born for trouble, and so spare me part of it for kindness' sake. But put the scene before me as you saw it, and if ever Odysseus, my noble father, served you, by promise kept or work accomplished in the land of Troy, where you Achaeans suffered, recall those things from me the way they were." And then Nestor, prince of charioteers, made the answer, quote, "Dear friend, you take me back to all the trouble we went through in that country, we Achaeans. Those were rough days aboard ship on a cloudly sea, cruising away for pillage after Achilles, rough days of battle around Priam's town. Our losses then, so many good men gone. Ares' great Aias lies there, Achilles lies there, Patroclus too, the wondrous counselor, and my own strong and princely son, Antilochus, fastest man of them all, and a born fighter. Other miseries and many we endured there. Could any mortal man tell that whole story? Not if you stayed 5 years, or 6 to hear how hard it was for the flower of the Achaeans. You'd go home weary, and the tale untold. Think, we were there 9 years, and we tried everything, all strategies against them, up to the bitter end that Zeus begrudged us. And as to stratagems, no man would claim Odysseus' gift for those. He had no rivals, your father. He the tricks of war. Your father? Well, I must say I marveled at the sight of you. You know, your manner of speech couldn't be more like his. One would say, no boy could speak so well. And all that time at Ilion, he and I were never at odds in council or assembly. We saw things the same way. We had one mind between us. In all good advice, we gave the archives. But when we plundered Priam's town and the tower and took to the ships, God scattered the Achaeans, the Greeks. He had a mind to make homecoming hard for them, seeing that they would not think straight nor behave, or some would not. Some evil days came on them, and she who had been angered, Zeus's dangerous gray-eyed daughter, that's Athena, she did it, starting a fight between the sons of Artus. First they were fools enough to call assembly at sundown, unheard of, and the Achaean soldiers turned out soaked with wine to hear talk and talk about it from their commanders. Menelaus hangered them to get organized. Time to ride home on the seas brought back, he said, but Agamemnon, his brother, wouldn't hear of it. Menelaus. He wanted to hold the troops, make sacrifice, a hectome, something to pacify Athena's rage. See, they would often sacrifice to the gods, and if the sacrifice was good, that was good. If it wasn't good, the gods didn't like that. One of the things you're going to notice in this story is the interaction, constant interaction of gods and humans. So pay attention. Folly again to think that he would move her. Will you change the will of the everlasting gods in a night or a daytime? The two men stood there hammering at each other until the army got to its feet with a roar and no decision, wanting it both ways. And that night, no one slept well. Everyone was cursing someone else. Here was the bane from Zeus. At dawn, we dragged our ships to the lordly water, stowed aboard all of our plunder, and the slave women into the low-hip girdles. But half of the army elected to stay behind with Agamemnon as their corps commander, and the other half embarked and pulled away. We made good time, the huge sea smoothed before us, and we held the rights when we reached Tendos, being wild for home, but Zeus, not willing yet, now cruelly, set us at odds a second time. And one lot turned, put back in the rolling ships, and another commanded by the subtle captain Odysseus. Their notion was to please Lord Agamemnon, but not I. I fled with every ship I had, and I knew fate had some devilment brewing there. Diomedes roused his company and fled too, and later Menelaus, the red-haired captain, caught up with us at Lesbos, while we mulled over the long sea route, unsure whether to lay our course northward toward Pylos, or keeping the Isle of Prysa off to the port, or even inside Chios, coasting on the windy Mimas. So we asked for a sign from heaven, and the sign came, to cut across the open sea to Yoba, and lose no time putting our ills behind us. So the wind freshened astern, and the ships ran before the wind on paths of the deep-sea fish, making Dratos before dawn. So we thanked Poseidon with many charred thigh bone for that crossing. And on the fourth day, Diomedes' company, under full sail, put in at Argos, and I held on for Pylos. And the wind was fair, and once heaven set it blowing, it never failed. So this, dear child, this is how I came from Troy, and I saw no more of the others, lost or saved. But you are welcome to all that I've heard since then at home. I've got no reason to keep it from you. The Mydron spear fighters returned, they say, under the son of lion-hearted Achilles, and so did Pylos' great son Philoctetes. Idomeneus brought his company back to Crete, and the sea took not a man from him. And all who lived through the long war, and even as far as Ithaca. You've heard of Agamemnon and how he came home, and how Augustus waited to destroy him, but he paid a bitter price for it in the end. That's the story you've been hearing repeatedly, right? And that's a good thing for now. For a man to leave his son behind, like a son who punished Odysseus for the murder of his great father. Orestes killed him, remember? You too are tall, you're well set up, and I can see you be brave, you too, so men in times to come will speak well of you. That's a long speech, isn't it? Telemachus said, Nestor, pride of Achaeans, Nelus' son, that was revenge, and far and wide the Achaeans will tell the tale in song for generations. I wish the gods would buckle his arms on me. I'd be revenged for outrage on my insidious and brazen enemies. But no such happy lot was given to me, or to my father. Still, I must hold fast. To this, Lord Nestor of Gerena said, My dear young friend, now that you speak of it, I hear a crowd of suitors for your mother lives with you, uninvited, making trouble. Now tell me, how do you take this? Do the people side against you, hearkening to some oracle? Who knows, your father might come home some day alone, or backed by troops, and have it out with him. If gray-eyed Athena loved you the way she did Odysseus in the old days, in Troy country, where we all went through so much, never have I seen the gods help any man as openly as Athena helped your father. Well, as I say, if she cared for you that way, there would be those to quit this marriage game, right? But prudently, Telemachus, replied, I can't think what you say will ever happen, sir. It's a dazzling hope, but not for me. It could not be, even if the gods willed it. At this, gray-haired Athena broke in, saying, now remember, she's there, disguised as Mentor, right? She breaks in, saying, what strange talk you permit yourself, Telemachus. A god could save that man by simply wishing it, from the farthest shore in the world. If I were he, I should prefer to suffer years at sea than to be safe at home. Better that than a knife at my hearth side where Agamemnon found it, killed by adulterers. Though as for death, of course, all men must suffer it. The gods may love a man, but they can't help him when cold death comes to lay him on his bier, on his funeral, right? Bier. Telemachus said, Mentor, remember, he doesn't see Athena, it's Mentor he's looking at. Mentor, grievously though we miss my father, why go on as if the homecoming could happen? You know the gods had settled it already years ago when dark death came for him. But there is something else that I imagine Nestor can tell us, knowing as he does the ways of men. They say his rule goes back over 3 generations, so long, so old, it seems that death cannot even touch him. Nestor, Nelus' son, true sage, please, say how did the lord of the great plains, Agamemnon, die? What was the trick that Augustus used to kill that better man? And Menelaus, where is he? Where was he? Not at Argos. Had blown off course? Was he held up in some far country? Is that what gave the killer the nerve to strike? Nestor said in answer, and I put a note here, now you're going to hear the full story of Agamemnon. Well, now, my son, I'll tell you the whole story. You know yourself what would have come to pass if red-haired Menelaus back from Troy had caught Augustus in that house alive. You know what would happen. There would have been no burial mound for him, but dogs and carrion birds to huddle on him in the fields beyond the wall, and not a soul bewailing him for the great wrong that he committed. While we were hard-pressed in the war at Troy, he stayed safe inland in the grazing country, making light talk to win Agamemnon's queen. But the lady Clemestra in the first days rebuffed him, being faithful. But then, too, she had a hand as her companion minstrel. Agamemnon left her attending her, charged with her care when he took ship for Troy. Then came that fated hour when she gave in. Her lover tricked the poet and marooned him on a bare island for the seabirds picking, and took her home as he and she desired. Many thigh bones he burned on the gods' altars, and many a woven and golden ornament hung to bedeck them in his satisfaction. He had not thought life held such glory for him. And now Menelaus and I sailed home together on friendly terms from Troy. But when we came off Sunian Point in Attica, the ship still running free, Onestes' son, Proetus, the steersman of Menelaus' ship, fell over with a death grip on the tiller. Some unseen arrow from Apollo hit him. No man handled the ship better than he did in a high wind and sea, so Menelaus put down his longing to get on, landed to give this man the full honor and burial. But his own luck turned then. Out of the wind-dark sea and the murmuring hulls again, he made Cape Mela. But Zeus, who views the wide world, sent a gloom over the ocean, and a howling gale came on, and the seas increasing and mountainous parting of the ships, driving half towards Crete, where Condonians lived, and in Darus' river, and off coastline, misty sea there, a reef, pardon my pronunciations, a razorback cuts through the water, and every westerly piles up on the pounding surf along the left side toward Phantios. Big seas buffeted back by the narrow stone. They were blown here. Hold on one second. Okay. Sorry. Orestes, running from exile to avenge his father, Agamemnon, by killing his mother and her lover. In the 8th year of ruling, Menelaus is Orestes' uncle. So that's a little note I wanted you to be aware of in this story of Agamemnon. They were blown here and fought in vain for sea room. The ships kept going into their destruction, slammed by the reef. But the crews were saved. But now those 5 that weathered it got off southward and taken by the wind current to Egypt. And in Egypt, Menelaus stayed. He made a fortune in sea traffic among those distant races. But while he did so, that foul crime was planned and carried out in Argos by Augustus, who ruled over golden Mycenae for 7 years, 7 long years. With Agamemnon dead, he held the people down before the vengeance. But in that 8th year, back from exile in Attica, Orestes killed the snake who killed his father. He gave his hateful mother and her soft man a tomb together and proclaimed the funeral day a festal day for all the Argive people. And that day, Lord Menelaus of the great war cry made port with all the gold his ships could carry. And this should give you pause, my son. Don't stay too long away from home, leaving your treasure there with those brazen suitors near. They'll squander all you have, or they'll take it from you. And then how will your journey serve you? I urge you, though, to call on Menelaus, he being of lately home from a distant part in the wide world. A man could well despair of getting home at all if the winds blew him over the great South Sea. That weary waste, even the wintering birds delay 1 winter more before going northward crossing. Well, take your ship and crew and go by water, or if you'd rather go by land. We hear our horses, a car, not the kind of car you're thinking of, chariot, and my own sons for company as far as the ancient land of Lacommedon, and Menelaus, the red-haired captain, is there. Ask him with courtesy, and in his wisdom he will tell you your history and no lies. So Nestor's urging Telemachus to go where? To see Menelaus, either by sea or by land. So while Nestor talked, the sun went down the sky, and gloom came on the land. And now gray-eyed goddess Athena said, remember, she's mentor, "Sir, this is almost welcome and to the point, but why not slice the bull's tongue now and mix libations for Poseidon and the gods? Then we can all retire. High time we did, because the light is going under the dark world's rim. Better not linger at the sacred feast." Remember, there's no lampshades or night lights here, right? This is before electricity. All they have is fire. When Zeus's daughters spoke, they turned to listen, and soon the squires brought water for their hands, while stewards filled the wine bowls and poured out a fresh cup full for every man. The company stood up to fling the tongues of the bulls and a shower of wine over the flames, and then drank their thirst away. And now finally Telemachus and Athena bestirred themselves, turning away to the ship, but Nestor put a hand on each and said, "Now Zeus forbid, and the other gods as well, that you should spend the night on board, and leave me as though I were some pauper without a stitch. No blankets in his house, no piles of rugs, no sleeping soft for host or guests. Far from it. Listen, I have all these blankets, deep-piled rugs, and while I live, the only son of Odysseus will never make his bed on a ship's deck. Why, my sons of mine are left at home to welcome any guest who comes." Athena, the great-eyed goddess, answered him, "You're very kind, sir, and Telemachus should do as you ask. That's the best thing. He will go with you and will spend the night under your roof. But I must join our ship and talk to the crew to keep their spirits up. Since I'm the only senior in the company. The rest are boys who ship for friendship's sake. No older than Telemachus, any of them. Let me sleep out there by the black hull's side, this night at least, and at daybreak I'll be off to see the Colloquians about a debt that they owe me. An old one, not a trifle. And as for your guest, send him off in a car, one of your own sons, and give him thoroughbreds, the racing team." In other words, go by land. Even as she spoke, Athena left them, seeming a sea hawk, a clap of wings, and all the Achaeans of Pylos town looked up astounded. Awed then were they by the eyes had seen. The old man took Telemachus' hand and said warmly, "My dear child, I can have no fears for you, no doubt about your conduct or your heart, if at your age the gods are your champion." Now, why is he saying that? Read that last paragraph. Athena left them, seeming a sea hawk in a clap of wings, and the Achaeans looked up astounded. Whoa, she flew away? Here we had someone from Olympus, clearly the glorious daughter of Zeus. See, they're realizing this wasn't Mentor, this was Athena, his third child, who held your father dear among the archives. "O lady, hear me. Grant an illustrious name to me and to my children and my dear wife. O noble heifer, a noble heifer shall be yours in sacrifice, one that no man has ever yoked or driven. My gift to you, her horns, all sheathed in gold." And so ended the praying. And Athena heard him. And then Nestor of Gerena led them all, his sons and son-in-laws, to his great house. And in they went to the famous hall of Nestor, taking their seats on thrones and easy chairs, while the old man mixed water in a wine bowl with red wine, mellowed 11 years, before his housekeeper uncapped the jar. And he mixed and poured his offering, repeating prayers to Athena, daughter of the royal Zeus. The others made libation, and they drank deep. And then all the company went to their quarters, and Nestor of Gerena showed Telemachus under the echoing east entrance hall to a fine bed, the bed of Pestronius, the captain of spearmen, his unmarried son. And then he lay down in his own inner chamber, where his dear faithful wife had smoothed his bed. And when dawn spread out her fingertips of rose. You'll keep seeing that line. Isn't that a beautiful line? When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose. Lord Nestor of Gerena, charioteer, left his room for a throne of polished stone, white and gleaming as though with oil, that stood before the main gate of the palace. Nellis here had sat before him, masterful in kingship. Nellis, long ago a prey to death, gone down to the night of the underworld. And so Nestor held his throne and scepter now, lord of the western approaches to Achaia, and presently his sons came out to join him, leaving the place. Elphephron, Staros, Perseus, Arestos, and Thamades. And after all of them, the prince Protestos, bringing Telemachus. These names are going to kill me. Bringing Telemachus along with him. Seeing all present, the Lord Nestor says, Dear sons, here is my wish, and do it briskly to please the gods. You know, I got an email the other day saying, what's wrong with my pronunciations? Well, I'm not Greek, right? I do my best. And the main thing is you don't have to be a perfect pronunciation of these very difficult names. Wait till you read the Russian Dostoevsky with me. Ho! Talk about pronunciations. Athena, first of all, my guest in daylight at our holy feast. One of you must go with the young heifer and have the cowherd lead him from the pasture, and another call on Lord Telemachus' ship, and invite his crewmen, leaving two behind, and someone else again send for the goldsmith, Lycaris, to gild the horns that we're going to sacrifice, right? The rest stay here together. Tell the servants a ritual feast will be prepared in the hall, and tell them to bring seats and firewood and fresh water. Before he finished, they were about their errands, and then the heifer came from the pasture, the crewmen of Telemachus from the ship. The smith arrived, bearing the tools of his trade, hammer and anvil, and the precision tongs. And he handled fiery gold with, and Athena came as a god comes, numerous to the rites. The smith now gloved each horn in a pure foil, beaten out of the gold that Nestor gave him. This is very, very specific things about what's going on with the sacrifices. A glory and delight for the goddess's eyes, while Elphron and Sapphoros held the horns. Aristos brought clear, lustral water in a bowl, quivering with fresh-cut flowers, a basket of barley in his other hand. Themestes, who could stand his ground in war, stood ready with a sharp two-bladed axe for the stroke of sacrifice, and Perseus held a bowl for the blood. And now this is, you see, this is very specific, right? And now Nestor, strewing the barley grains and the water drops, pronounced his invocation to Athena, and burned a pinch of brittles from the victim. And when the prayers were said and all the grain was scattered, great-hearted Telemachus in a flash swung his axe, and at one blow cutting through the neck tendons, and the heifer's spirit failed. And then all of the women gave a wail of joy, daughters-in-law, the lady Euryclidite, Clemos, the eldest daughter, but the men still held the heifer, shored her up from the wide earth where the living go their ways, until Protestos cut her throat across, and the black blood ran, and the life ebbed from her marrow. The carcass now sank down, and they disjointed the shoulder and the thigh bone, wrapping them in fat, 2 layers folded with raw strips of flesh. These offerings Nestor burned on the split wood fire and moistened with red wine. His sons took up the 5 tin forks in their hands, and while the altar flame ate through the bones, and the bits of tripe went around, and then came the carving of the quarters, and they spitted the morsels of lean meat on long, sharp tines and broiled them at arm's length upon the fire. Don't forget, this is oral tradition. Whoever's saying this to whoever's listening to it, this is all matter of fact of what goes on when they sacrifice to the gods. The detail in here is enormous. Would you agree with that? Polycos, the fair girl, Nestor's youngest, had meanwhile given a bath to Telemachus, bathing him first, and then rubbing him with oil. She held fine clothes and a cloak to put around him, and when he came godlike from the bathing place, then out he went to take his place with Nestor. When the best cuts were broiled and off the spits, they all sat down to a banquet. Gentle squires kept every golden wine cup brimming full, so that they feasted to their heart's content, until the prince of charioteers commanded, "Sons, harness the blood mares for Telemachus, and hitch up that car and let him take the road." So they swung out smartly to do the work and hooked the handsome horses to the chariot shaft. The mistress of the stores brought up provisions, bread, wine, victuals fit for a king, and Telemachus stepped up on the painted car. Just as his elbow stood Odysseus, captain of spearmen, reins in hand, and he gave a flick to the horses, and the streaming manes that they ran in the open country and the tall town of Pylos sank behind them in the distance, as all the day they kept the harness shaking. The sun was low, and the shadows crossed the lanes when they arrived at Phalera, and there Deucolus, son of Ocos, whom Pylos fathered, welcomed the young men, and they slept that night. But when young dawn's fingers tips the rose, there's that phrase again, opened in the east, they hitched up the team once more to the painted car and steered out eastward through the echoing gate, whipping their fresh horses into a run. And that day they made the grainlands of Lacedaemon, where, as the horses held to a fast clip, they kept on to their journey's end, and behind them the sun went down, and all the roads grew dark. Whew. That was book 3 of the Odyssey. You've been reading the Odyssey with Jimmy. There are many more books in this, right? We're through 3 books. There's 24, 3 less. That's 21 left. Are you going to be there with me? And again, don't email me about my pronunciations, please. I'm doing my best. And you can correct them in your own mind. But the point is that you're reading English, right? This is an English translation by Mr. Fitzgerald to give us a sense of what's going on. And what's going on are the words around these beautiful Greek names. So be sure to visit other classics on my website. And if you have to email me about pronunciation, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Thanks for coming by. Don't forget, keep reading, because there's going to be a heck of an analysis about this. Take it easy. Bye.